A ship is moving through the dark. No announcement, no press briefing, no stated destination. Just a 45,000-ton vessel pushing through open water at 20 knots, steady, deliberate, and completely alone. Satellite tracking picked it up days earlier, passing south of Taiwan, cutting through a narrow maritime corridor. It had separated from its group, and now it was heading southwest without a single deviation in course or speed. To the untrained eye, it looked like routine movement, but anyone watching the feed knew better. Ships like this don't move like this without a reason, and the reason was already waiting for it. But before we get into what this ship is capable of, you need to understand what it was sailing toward, because the situation it was heading into had already broken things that were supposed to be unbreakable. One of the busiest shipping lanes on the planet had gone silent. Not slow, not cautious, silent. Where more than 100 vessels would normally pass through every single day, only a handful were even attempting the crossing. The lanes, barely 2 miles wide, stretched empty across water that was usually packed with commercial traffic. Tankers, container ships, cargo vessels carrying billions of dollars of goods. Gone. Several ships had already been hit. Some never made it through. Insurance companies pulled coverage completely. Major shipping operators halted all movement through the corridor. And the ones still considering it had a simple calculation to run. Risk the entire vessel and crew, or anchor somewhere safe and wait. Most chose to wait. Naval forces had already responded aggressively. Thousands of strikes had been carried out. Enemy vessels were destroyed. Coastal infrastructure was hit repeatedly. And yet, the route stayed closed. Because the real threat wasn't a fleet sitting in open water targeted. It was something far harder to kill. Small, mobile launch systems, hidden in terrain, appearing for seconds, firing, then vanishing back into the mountains and cliffs before a response could arrive. For any commercial operator watching from a bridge, one hit anywhere in the convoy was enough. The math was brutal and simple. And that math had shut down one of the world's most critical trade routes. That's the problem this deployment was built to solve. And what was about to unfold would catch even experienced analysts off guard.
USS Tripoli does not look like a supercarrier. It was never supposed to. At 45,000 tons, it sits in a category the Navy calls an amphibious assault ship, smaller than a full carrier, heavier than a destroyer, and designed to carry Marines and aircraft into contested environments. But what most people don't realize is that this particular vessel had been fundamentally redesigned from the inside out. The well deck, the traditional lower bay used for launching landing craft onto beaches, was gone. In its place, expanded hangar space and significantly increased fuel storage. The kind of internal layout that isn't built for beach landings, it's built for aviation. Sustained, high-tempo, close-range aviation. Up to 20 F-35B stealth fighters can operate from its deck at once. Not stationed on it, operating from it. Cycling through launches and recoveries in sequence, maintaining continuous presence over a target area without pause. Each of those jets is capable of short takeoff and vertical landing. No long runway, no catapult system. No need for the massive infrastructure a supercarrier requires.
Here's the problem with sending a supercarrier into a place like this. Those ships are enormous. They are powerful beyond measure, but they operate far offshore, sometimes hundreds of miles back, because their size makes them vulnerable in confined coastal waters, and because the threats embedded in the surrounding terrain make close positioning extremely dangerous. The aircraft they launch burn significant fuel just reaching the target area, which leaves only a narrow window of actual coverage over the corridor before they have to turn back. In a 2-mile wide shipping lane surrounded by cliffs and mountains packed with concealed missile systems, narrow windows are not enough. A few minutes of air coverage, followed by a gap, followed by a few more minutes, that's an exploitable pattern.
and the forces operating in that terrain were experienced enough to exploit it. Tripoli, positioned between 100 and 150 miles from the corridor, changes the entire calculation. Its jets can reach the area faster and stay on station significantly longer. Coverage becomes continuous rather than intermittent. The threat calculus for anyone preparing to launch from a hillside shifts from manageable risk to something far more dangerous. But sustained air coverage alone wasn't going to finish this, because some of what was buried in those mountains couldn't be reached from the sky at all.
Tunnels, underground launch sites, concealed positions carved directly into cliffs. Airstrikes are effective against what is visible: exposed vehicles, surface installations, open terrain. But hardened underground infrastructure is a fundamentally different problem. You can hit the entrance, you can collapse an access road, but the systems inside, the missiles, the crews, the equipment staged deep beneath the rock, remain functional, ready to emerge again the moment the jets pass overhead. That's where the 2,500 personnel aboard Tripoli enter the picture. And this is the part of the deployment that rarely gets discussed in coverage of the ship's air capability. Below the flight deck, MV-22 Osprey sat with their rotors folded, ready to deploy on short notice. These aircraft are a hybrid, part helicopter, part turboprop plane, capable of taking off and landing vertically while carrying a full complement of troops and equipment. Heavy lift helicopters were staged nearby, transport aircraft positioned for rapid movement. This wasn't a force configured for traditional beach landings. These Marines were built for vertical assault, the ability to insert directly into elevated, hard-to-reach terrain, the exact environment where standard amphibious approaches fall apart completely. Instead of landing on a beach and fighting upward, you land on the high ground and fight down. Inside the aircraft bays, gear was staged in silence, communication systems checked, weapons secured. For many of these Marines, this was their first time deploying into an environment with this level of complexity. Some sat quietly with equipment beside them. Others reviewed systems or spoke in low voices with their teams. The duration of the deployment was still unknown to most of them, but the preparation was complete. Aviation above, infantry below. One ship, one platform, one combined capability that neither element could achieve alone. And what was already assembling around them in the surrounding waters would complete the picture entirely.
While Tripoli pushed forward, a different kind of operation was already underway. Specialized mine detection vessels, slow, deliberate, and extremely vulnerable, had begun moving through designated approach routes. These ships deploy sonar arrays directly into the water, scanning every meter of the corridor ahead. The process cannot be rushed. Speed is reduced to almost nothing. Each section of lane must be checked, verified, and cleared before anything larger can follow. A single missed contact can end a convoy before it begins. Destroyers held defensive positions on the flanks, watching for surface threats. Helicopters swept low overhead, scanning the water ahead of the mine hunters. Every vessel in this phase required active protection just to do its job, and the job took time. But once a lane was confirmed, the convoys began to form. Large tankers moved into position behind the cleared path. Naval vessels took up flanking positions on both sides. Fighter aircraft maintained visible patrol patterns overhead, a constant reminder that the corridor was being watched. The movement was controlled and supervised at every stage. It didn't feel safe. The confined geography.
This ship was criticized when it was first designed. The arguments weren't unreasonable. An amphibious assault ship that gave up well deck for aviation capability, that couldn't perform traditional beach landings, seemed like a compromise that left it halfway between two roles and fully committed to neither. Too small to replace a carrier, too specialized to function as a standard amphibious ship. Defense analysts questioned whether the design made operational sense. Out here, in a 2-mile-wide corridor surrounded by mountains, with mobile missile threats that couldn't be fixed from the sky, and terrain that defeated conventional amphibious approaches, every one of those so-called compromises had become a capability. Smaller than a supercarrier, so it could operate where the big ships couldn't go.
rebuilt for sustained aviation, so its jets could stay on station long enough to matter. Carrying ground forces configured for vertical insertion, so the threat underground could be addressed, not just suppressed. Traveling with a guided missile cruiser and destroyer in a compact strike group capable of operating without support from the larger fleet. One platform, multiple problems. One deployment that had gone from a quiet blip on a satellite feed to the centerpiece of an operation reshaping access to one of the world's most critical waterways.
The question at the start was simple. How quickly can a single warship change the balance of an operation? The answer? Visible on the flight deck, in the aircraft bays, in the cleared lanes beginning to fill with ships again, was already being written. Not through overwhelming force, not through the presence of a supercarrier group operating from safe distance, but through a ship that was designed for exactly this kind of fight, carrying exactly the right combination of people and machines, positioned exactly close enough to matter. The lanes weren't fully open yet. The threats hadn't disappeared. The terrain was still the same terrain, but the balance had shifted. And out here, that shift had started the moment that satellite contact first appeared, moving steadily southwest through the dark.